Why was an entire mountain ridge reshaped into a vast, planned city, lifted above valleys and clouds, only to be slowly abandoned, leaving behind silent plazas and unanswered questions? Monte Albán rises quietly above the Oaxaca Valley, balanced between earth and sky. From below, it appears as a long, narrow spine of stone and soil. From above, it feels suspended, open to wind and light. Clouds drift past its edges. Sunlight moves slowly across worn platforms and broken stairways. The land drops away sharply on every side. Nothing about this place feels accidental. The ridge was not naturally flat. It was cut, leveled, and reshaped over generations. Stone was moved, soil was redirected, slopes were carved into terraces. Before temples or plazas appeared, the mountain itself was transformed. The ground became a foundation for something carefully imagined. Monte Albán stands where three broad valleys meet. Below, rivers shift with the seasons, fields stretch across fertile plains, mountain ranges frame the horizon. From this height, the surrounding landscape is visible in every direction. The site commands its environment without walls or defenses. It watches quietly. The climate here demands balance. Rain arrives in summer, dry months follow. Crops depend on timing, water must be stored, soil must be protected. Life in this region has always required patience and long planning. From above, the city reveals its order. Long plazas follow the ridge, platforms rise in measured steps, courtyards open between major structures, ball courts rest within aligned spaces, lines repeat, angles echo, space is shaped with intention. Even in ruin, Monte Albán feels deliberate. Stone walls trace pathways of movement, stairways guide the eye upward, terraces hold their form against erosion. Nothing suggests improvisation. This was not a settlement that grew by chance, it was designed. Building here required effort. Materials had to be carried uphill. Water had to be managed at elevation. Access had to be maintained across steep slopes. And yet, for centuries, this place thrived. No written records explain why this ridge was chosen. No surviving voices describe its first construction. The city speaks only through its geometry. And so the question rests over every open plaza. Why was this mountain turned into a city at all? To understand how Monte Albán functioned, the valleys below must be seen as part of the same design. From its elevated ridge, the city overlooked three branches of the Oaxaca Valley. Each offered fertile land, seasonal rivers, and natural routes of movement. These valleys were not separate from the mountaintop. They were connected to it. Pathways descended along ridgelines, linking the summit to lower settlements and agricultural zones. Terraces shaped the slopes, slowing erosion and creating usable surfaces. Water followed natural gullies downward, guided rather than forced. The mountain became part of a larger system that extended far beyond its crest. Within the city, space reinforced this connection. Broad plazas provided room for gathering and coordination. Long platforms created clear sightlines across the ridge. Stairways aligned with distant hills and horizon points. Movement through the city followed measured axes, allowing circulation despite steep terrain. Stone construction reflects long planning. Blocks were cut locally and fitted with care. Walls were thick and stable. New structures were added beside older ones without disrupting the overall layout. Over time, layers accumulated, preserving earlier phases beneath later expansions. Water management was essential at this height. Natural springs were limited. Rain had to be captured and stored. Basins collected seasonal runoff. Channels directed excess water away from foundations. Plastered surfaces reduced absorption and erosion. Every storm became part of the city's supply. Agriculture remained rooted in the valleys below. Fields followed riverbanks and floodplains. Crops were timed to seasonal cycles. Storage spaces near the summit suggest coordination between high ridge and fertile lowlands. Monte Albán was not isolated above its surroundings. It depended on them. The ridge and valley formed a single system of elevation and cultivation. Yet this coordination raises deeper questions. How was such consistency maintained for centuries? What sustained the effort required to keep this mountaintop city stable? The stone holds the pattern, but not the explanation. As Monte Albán matured, its internal order became more defined. Expansion did not erase earlier phases. Instead, new platforms were layered over old foundations. Stairways were rebuilt along familiar lines. Courtyards were reshaped without disturbing the overall geometry. The ridge evolved through continuity rather than replacement. movement through the city followed a quiet logic. Wide plazas opened into narrower passages. Elevated terraces overlooked open courts. Long sightlines guided attention toward distant hills and sky. The layout encouraged gradual circulation instead of crowding, allowing activity to unfold across space rather than concentrate in one point. Certain architectural features repeat across the site. Sloping stone walls, recessed panels, and carefully proportioned staircases appear again and again. These patterns suggest shared building standards maintained across generations. Construction here followed established principles, not isolated decisions. Among the most striking elements are carved stone slabs placed within plazas and along platforms. Some display human figures, symbolic forms, or calendrical markings. Their placement within public areas hints at memory and communication woven into the city itself. Yet their exact meaning remains uncertain, adding to the site's quiet mystery. Ball courts align with major axes, reinforcing the city's planned structure. They integrate smoothly into surrounding plazas, reflecting coordination between ceremonial space and daily movement. Despite its scale, Monte Albán shows limited evidence of rigid separation. Residential zones blend into ceremonial areas. Boundaries feel suggested rather than imposed. Authority, if present, appears embedded in routine and repetition rather than enclosure. This balance between openness and structure is unusual. Many large centers emphasize control through walls. Here, order feels distributed across the ridge. Later construction phases reveal subtle shifts. Some expansions slowed. Certain alignments changed slightly. Maintenance became uneven. These adjustments are small, yet meaningful. They suggest that the city's long-standing rhythm was beginning to shift. In its later centuries, Monte Albán began to change in quiet, almost invisible ways. There is no clear sign of sudden destruction, no widespread burning, no sharp break in occupation. Instead, the rhythm of renewal slowly weakened. Construction became less frequent. Plaster surfaces were left to weather. Some terraces were no longer expanded. Certain plazas show fewer signs of regular maintenance. In a place built on balance, even small changes carried weight. Environmental pressures may have played a role. Shifts in rainfall could have affected agriculture in the valleys below. Soil, cultivated for generations, may have lost productivity. Periods of drought may have strained water storage systems. A city so dependent on coordination between ridge and valley would have felt these stresses deeply. Regional connections also appear to have shifted. New centers grew elsewhere in the valley. Trade routes may have changed, movement patterns slowly redirected. Monte Albán remained visible and impressive, but influence can fade without walls falling. As fewer people returned to repair stairways or renew surfaces, parts of the city grew quiet. Wind moved freely across open courts, grass emerged between stones, rain softened sharp edges. The mountain began reclaiming its contours. Over time, activity drifted away. Monte Albán did not collapse. It was gradually set aside. Today, the city still rises above the Oaxaca Valley, its platforms and stairways holding firm against centuries of weather. From its summit, the view remains wide and calm. Valleys stretch outward. Clouds drift past. The geometry of the city endures, even in ruin. And so the original question returns. Why was this mountain ridge transformed into a planned urban center, and why was it eventually left behind? The stone suggests answers shaped by vision, cooperation, and long-term stability. It also reminds us that even the most carefully designed landscapes depend on fragile balance. If this quiet journey through Monte Albán has stayed with you, you may wish to continue exploring these ancient places with us. And what do you think mattered most in choosing a mountain as the foundation for a city?